Hello, welcome to the Musical Grant Program webinar for 2015. My name is Nicole Lungerhausen and I am the grant coordinator for the Musical Grant Program. Today we're going to be talking about the MGP guidelines that are specific to performer applicants. So a little bit of background first about the Musical Grant Program. It was formed in 2008 by the Friends of Chamber Music, and it has several goals. One is that it acts as a catalyst for creative musical projects. It raises the profile of local artists, and it creates opportunities for audiences to experience the really amazing diversity of music that's here in the Bay Area. The program really supports a wide variety of music, so it supports projects in early music, chamber music, new music, jazz, and creative music. So as you can see, we really support a wide variety of genres. And since its start in 2008, the program has awarded more than $425,000 to 159 projects. And on our website, we have a listing of all the awards that have been given out by the MGP since 2008, and they include detailed project descriptions. So that's a really great resource to check out and see, get an idea of what kind of projects and ensembles, composers, presenters we've been funding since the program began. Okay, so how do you know if you qualify for the performer category? If you're applying as a performer, you can be either a small ensemble with a collective history or an individual musician that has a special small ensemble project where you're bringing together players that you may or may not have worked before specifically for a project. You must propose a music project that includes the participation of one or more ensembles defined by SFFCM as a group of two or more musical performers, and this can be instrumentalists or singers, each playing one on a part without a conductor. If you're creating a new ensemble for the project and have no prior collective history, the application must address the specific purpose of the proposed formation. So you'll have to give us a rationale as to why you're coming together for this specific project and why it's important for these particular players to all come together to do this work. And then you'll need to provide a signed letter of intent or commitment for all the players that are involved with the project. And the guidelines, the application itself, which can be downloaded from our website, gives you very detailed instructions about how to lay out your letters of commitment, who they need to come from. So I strongly recommend that you check that out if you think that you might be in a position where you need to submit letters of commitment. A lot of times people have projects that involve multiple partners. It could be that you're a performer, that you may be doing a project that involves more than one ensemble. And people want to know, is that all right? And yes, it's absolutely fine. We definitely welcome projects with multiple partners. But all the partners that are involved in your project must meet the eligibility requirements that I'll lay out on the next page of this presentation. And one last important thing to know before we talk about the other eligibility requirements is that we do have a one application rule. So that means that as a performer, you would only be able to submit one application for a project. Or like say if you're an ensemble and you have two different projects that you want to submit for, you'd have to choose between one of those projects and just submit for that. You wouldn't be able to be in a position to submit for both. The one exception to this is if, say, you're a performer and you're involved with one group that's submitting for a completely different project. Like, for example, you're submitting to work with a composer, or to be presented by on a series. And then you are a performer who is involved with a completely different ensemble, completely different makeup of musicians, maybe even working in a completely different genre of music and doing a separate project. In that case, you would be eligible to be a part of two different applications because there is such a big difference between the two projects and ensembles. If you think that you're going to be in that position, I strongly recommend that you contact me by email and let me know what the situation is so I can help guide you as to how to navigate that. And I'll give out my contact information at the end of the presentation. So, what else do you need to know before applying? So here are the general eligibility requirements for performers. If you're a first-time applicant, you absolutely must confirm your eligibility with the Friends of Chamber Music staff, and we'll give out information on how to do that, how to contact staff members at the end of the presentation. You must show a significant performance history. And this can be either for yourself as a performer or collectively as a group. There is a separate webinar that lays out what you should be including in your performance history, both in the written narrative and when you list out like what your list of recent performances are. And I strongly recommend that if you have questions about that, you go ahead and watch that webinar to get information. You need to reside, live, and work in one of the 15 counties of the greater San Francisco Bay Area that are listed in our guidelines, and present your project in one or more of these counties. And you must have an annual budget under $100,000. You have to be at least 18 years of age and a U.S. citizen or have legal resident permit status. And if you are a past grantee, you need to submit a report on your past project by January 31st, 2015 in order to be eligible to reapply. And sorry, but if you were an MGP grantee in 2014, you have to wait a whole year, a whole cycle before reapplying. And that would go for any of the partners that, like, for those of you who might be in a situation where you have a project with multiple partners, that would apply to every single partner in the project. So let's say you're working with, another ensemble that got funding last year, then you wouldn't be able to apply with that project and that ensemble. You'd have to maybe figure out a different configuration. Okay, so the expenses that the grant will support. The most important things to know about the MGP is that we support project-based grants only. So it needs to be something along the lines of involving performance, recording, commissioning, or some other project that has like a defined end goal and defined activities as part of it. And then here's a list of all the things that that we'll support with performer applicants. So you can apply for artist performance and rehearsal fees. You can apply for composer fees to commission a new work, so you can pay the composer for their work. You can apply for PR and marketing costs specific to the project. So, if you have a performance component to the project and you make the public aware of it, you can apply for those costs for doing so, for doing that outreach. Sound and video recording costs. You can pay for your fees to rent the venue where you'll be performing. Other direct production costs, and these are actually listed out in the guidelines for performers. There's a specific example list that you can refer to. And in terms of award amounts, we will, the MGP gives awards of up to $3,000, and then in the cases of commissioning, we'll give awards up to $4,000. This next part is important to think about for your project activities. Our grant period is from July 1st, 2015 until June 30th, 2017, and which means that your project activities can start no earlier than July 1st, 2015, and you need to wrap everything up within that 2-year window. So we give you a nice big window in order to be able to complete your project. Okay, so when is the deadline? It is Friday, February 13th, 2015. That is a postmark deadline, not a receipt deadline. So what that means is you just have to get your application to the post office, get it stamped and in the mail by that day. We really discourage you from using overnight mail or FedEx, UPS, etc., just because of the cost. It's perfectly fine just to send it by regular U.S. mail as long as it's postmarked by that deadline day. So when will you know when you receive the grant? We'll announce awards in mid-April 2015. Our panel review process is typically done at the end of March, and then we have a 2 or 3 week window where we kind of gather all of the information we've gotten from that review process and compiled it all, and then are able to announce awards in mid-April. All right, so if you have any questions, there are a bunch of resources that you can take a look at to get your questions answered. First off, we have an FAQ on the website. It's pretty extensive. It's just based on a lot of the different questions that we've seen and received over the years from doing the program. And so I strongly recommend checking that out, being one of your first stops when you have questions about eligibility or about particular application materials. Of course, the webinars that we're doing for this year are also resources. If you are a first-time applicant, just to reiterate this, you need to speak with a SFF-CM staff member prior to submitting an application. This is absolutely mandatory. In order to do that, you want to visit the link here on this page and click on it to schedule a phone appointment. If you're a returning applicant, you can book an appointment with an SFF-CM staff member via the link above, or you can email me directly at mgp@sffcm.org. Okay, that brings us to the end of our webinar on the guidelines for Performer. I want to thank you for joining me, and I wish you best of luck with your application.